The laughter hit Naomi like a slap in the face. It started as a snicker, then a low chuckle from the back of the auditorium. Then came the full, open-mouthed laughter, the kind that didn't even try to hide its cruelty. She stood alone under the fluorescent lights of Jefferson Middle School's gym-turned-science hall, clutching her project like a lifeline. A homemade water purifier, built from a repurposed coffee can, green algae samples, copper wiring, and a taped-on solar panel. Assembled in the corner of her kitchen over sleepless nights and whispered prayers. Now it sat on the presentation table looking fragile, uncertain. Kind of like Naomi herself. She brought a bomb from the ghetto, someone muttered from the bleachers. Laughter followed. Naomi's grip tightened. She was 13, black, from Brownsville. Her hoodie sleeves were pulled over her hands. Her shoes had seen better days, and unlike the others around her, perfect poster boards, pre-printed graphs, and projects that screamed parent involvement. Naomi had walked to school at 6 a.m. to set this up herself. The principal, Mr. Blake, walked by, tall, white, with that permanent expression of bored authority. His laugh joined the crowds when he spotted her display. Behind him stood Mr. Hughes, the physics teacher with a NASA mug he never drank from. He squinted at her project, nose wrinkled. "Naomi," he said loudly, waving her off. "This is a science fair, not a garbage dump. Where did you even find this? Next to your building's trash chute." Naomi's cheeks flushed. She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Blake stepped forward. "We teach real science here, not duct-taped welfare experiments." His hand shot out, grabbed the purifier by the can, and, with one clean motion, dumped it into the trash bin beside the table. A ripple went through the room. No one said anything. No one stopped him. Naomi stood still, trembling. "Next!" Mr. Hughes called. The next student stepped up. Naomi turned and walked. Not fast, not crying, not yet. Just out. Out of the gym, down the hallway, past the honor roll wall where her name had never appeared, into the girls' bathroom. And there, finally, she broke. The sobs were silent, but jagged. She slumped against the stall wall, her hands pressed against her face. The image of her project crumpled in the trash, seared into her mind. Her mother had helped her solder the wires. They had tested it in the sink with dishwater, purified it through algae filtration. It had worked. She had believed it mattered. A knock at the door. "Naomi?" Her mom's voice. Gentle. Knowing. Naomi didn't answer. Through the sobs, she whispered to herself, "Why does it feel like being smart is a crime? If you're from Brownsville." The next morning, 8:17 a.m. The secretary's hands trembled as she reached for the intercom. "Mr. Blake?" She called into the receiver. There's a call. Line 2. They say it's the White House. And NASA." There was a pause. Then Blake's door opened. "What kind of prank?" he began. She handed him the phone. He rolled his eyes. "But this is Principal Blake. Who's speaking?" The voice on the other end was clear, calm, and very real. "This is Dr. Mina Rosario, Deputy Director of Research Initiatives for NASA. We're calling in coordination with the Department of Energy. We received a PDF of a student's science project, an algae-based solar water purifier designed by a Naomi Johnson. We'd like to speak with her directly. Is she available?" Blake froze. His mouth opened, then shut. Naomi Johnson?" He looked over at the trash can near the auditorium doors, still half full. The coffee can peeked out over the rim. I believe you may have the wrong school, he stammered. There was a long silence on the other end. Then, we don't. Less than an hour later, a black SUV pulled up in front of the school. Doors opened. Out stepped a tall woman in a navy blue NASA blazer and a clipboard. A second SUV arrived shortly after, this time with a man from the White House Science Office, holding a printed email titled, Project Submission, Naomi Johnson, Emergency Water Purification Prototype. Word spread like wildfire through the halls. Mr. Blake looked like a man about to be audited by the universe. Students peered out from classroom doors. A few whispered. One of them, Lauren, an 11th grader who had mocked Naomi the day before, was now staring down at her feet, cheeks flushed. The NASA agent's voice echoed down the corridor. Where is Naomi Johnson? No one answered, until a small voice from the crowd said, She went home early yesterday. After... What happened? The agent raised an eyebrow. And what did happen exactly? No one answered that. She turned to Blake. We're here under federal order to speak with Miss Johnson. Her design is under consideration for field implementation in drought-affected regions. Please provide her contact information immediately. Blake's face was pale. Of course, he stammered. Of course. At that same moment, in a small apartment in Brownsville, Naomi sat curled in her mother's arms. Her eyes were swollen. Her purifier, what was left of it, lay in a box beside the couch. She had made up her mind. She was done with science, done with trying. Until the knock on the door. Her mom answered, then froze. Naomi looked up to see two strangers standing in the hallway, one in a NASA blazer, the other in a crisp black suit. Naomi Johnson? The woman asked gently. Naomi stood slowly, confused, afraid. She nodded. The man stepped forward. You don't know us, he said, but we know your work. And if you're willing, we'd like to fly you to D.C. There's someone at the Department of Energy who'd very much like to meet the girl who just might have created one of the most cost-effective water purification systems we've seen this year. Naomi blinked. Her mom gasped softly. But my project, Naomi started. The woman smiled. We saw it, trash can and all. Naomi Johnson had never flown on a plane. She had never left New York. Never stayed in a hotel where people didn't ask what floor she cleaned. Now she sat in a leather seat, next to a window, with clouds outside and a NASA badge around her neck. Her name was spelled right. Her title? Youth Innovator, Water Sustainability Pilot Program. It didn't feel real. 24 hours earlier, the night before Naomi lay awake in her twin bed, the NASA folder clutched to her chest like a shield. Every time she closed her eyes, she heard it again. Where did you even find this? Next to your building's trash chute. Garbage. Welfare experiment. We teach real science. She gritted her teeth, turning toward the wall. The darkness didn't help. Her mom had stayed up with her, just sitting in silence, hand on her back. She didn't say, I told you so. Didn't say, it'll get better. She just stayed. When Naomi whispered, I don't want to go, her mother had only said, then go scared. Just don't stop. Washington, D.C. The next morning, they were waiting for her, an entire round table of scientists in suits and lab coats. Most of them were old, white, and male, but not all. A few were women, a few looked like her. That mattered, but not as much as the look on their faces. It wasn't pity, it was curiosity, respect, admiration. Dr. Rosario, the woman from NASA, stood beside her like a shield and a sword. She held up Naomi's blueprint, now laminated, labeled, and watermarked. This design takes phototrophic biofiltration, combines it with solar-powered distillation, and uses salvaged material for less than $20 per unit. It's genius in its constraints. Naomi's heart thundered. They asked her questions, technical ones, real ones. Not, "Where did you find this?" but "How did you get the algae to filter toxins so effectively without a sediment chamber?" Naomi answered everyone. Not fast, not loud, but steady. And when one man interrupted her mid-sentence, "Doctor," Rosario snapped, "let her finish." Naomi finished. Back at Jefferson Middle School. The first article had already gone up. 13-year-old creates water filter that could save thousands. NASA takes notice. Students huddled around phones, swiping in disbelief. Lauren scrolled past the image of Naomi standing in front of the Department of Energy's seal, blinking. "She really made that thing?" someone whispered. Mr. Hughes, the science teacher, stood silently in the break room, the newspaper headline wide open in front of him. The same girl he'd humiliated in front of the entire school now had a quote in Science Weekly. He looked like he was trying to swallow gravel. Principal Blake was worse. His inbox was flooded. Parents wanted answers. Reporters were asking for statements. The superintendent wanted a meeting. At noon, the school board emailed a single line. Was this child denied entry to the science fair? He didn't reply. Washington, D.C. Hotel rooftop. That night, Naomi sat by herself, legs tucked beneath her, watching the lights of the city blink below. She was exhausted, not from travel, not from interviews or spotlights, from holding back for so long. Doctor Rosario joined her, carrying 2 paper cups of hot cocoa. "Want to know a secret?" she asked. Naomi nodded. "I grew up in a place like Brownsville. I built my first chemistry set out of nail polish and baking soda. Got called a freak. Got told I'd scare the boys off." Naomi smiled weakly. "You scared the wrong people today," Rosario said. "That's good." Naomi looked down. "They still think I'm trash." They thought Katherine Johnson was a janitor when she walked into NASA. They thought Mae Jemison was too distracted to be a real astronaut. They thought your project was junk, until it threatened to be smarter than theirs. A pause. "Next time someone throws your work in the trash," Rosario said, "just remember, even a diamond looks like a rock if you don't know what you're looking at." That night, in Blake's office, the school was dark, silent. Blake sat behind his desk, alone. On his screen, Naomi's face beamed from CNN's homepage. He clicked off the monitor, then slowly turned to the trash bin in the corner, the same one where he'd thrown Naomi's project 2 days ago. It was still there. He picked up the can, held it in his hands, and for the first time in years, Principal Blake didn't feel powerful. He felt afraid. Because Naomi Johnson wasn't just a girl with a project. She was a storm, and storms don't ask for permission. The black SUV pulled into the front lot of Jefferson Middle School at exactly 8 a.m. Reporters were already waiting. Cameras flashed, microphones shot forward. Students crowded the sidewalk, faces pressed to the glass. Phones pointed from every angle. And at the center of it all, stepping out in a pressed blazer 2 sizes too big, her braids pulled back with a clip from the corner store, NASA badge still swinging around her neck, was Naomi Johnson. She looked nervous, but she walked like she belonged. Because she did. Inside the main office, Principal Blake stood frozen in front of the window, watching the crowd ripple around the SUV. "She came back?" he said, mostly to himself. Mr. Hughes leaned on the doorframe. "Looks like she brought the world with her." Blake straightened his tie. "I should welcome her. Say something." Mr. Hughes raised an eyebrow. "After what you said to her?" Blake hesitated, then sighed. "What PR said I should apologize." The auditorium. The school had assembled every student in the building. They tried to pass it off as a science recognition assembly. But everyone knew what this really was. The lights dimmed. The murmurs died down. And then Naomi walked out, flanked by Dr. Rosario from NASA, a woman from the Department of Energy, and the school superintendent himself. She was 13, but the silence that followed her entrance wasn't the kind kids get. It was the kind world changers get. She stepped onto the stage, the same one where 2 days ago her project was called trash, where the principal had torn it from the table and dumped it in the bin. Now the school board had reinstalled her purifier in the center of the stage, framed, literature like an exhibit. Principal Blake approached the microphone. He cleared his throat, his face tight with discomfort. "Students," he began. "Today we celebrate one of our own, Naomi Johnson, whose science project on water purification has caught the attention of the highest institutions in our country." He glanced at Naomi, then back at the audience. "I want to say something I should have said before." His voice wavered. "I was wrong. A beat." She was right. He turned toward her. "Naomi, I'm sorry. We all are." She looked at him, didn't blink, didn't smile. She stepped forward, took the mic. For a moment, she said nothing. Her eyes scanned the crowd. Some kids looked away. Others stared back, guilt tightening their shoulders. Lauren, the 11th grader, sat rigid, her cheeks flushed with the weight of silent regret. Naomi finally spoke. "I used to think being smart wasn't for people like me." She said it quietly, but the gym was so quiet, it might as well have been a shout. I used to think if you were from Brownsville, if you had holes in your shoes, if your mom worked nights, you were just supposed to survive." She took a breath. "But science doesn't care where you're from." Pause, and neither should people. The crowd stirred. "I made that purifier because my aunt in Mississippi doesn't have clean water. I made it because my little cousin got sick from drinking tap. I didn't make it to win a medal." She turned toward the display behind her. "I made it because people need it." The room held its breath. Naomi looked straight at her classmates, the ones who laughed, mocked, doubted, and said, "Never let the people who can't see your light try to dim it." Silence. Then someone clapped, then another, and then the gym exploded into applause. Not polite clapping, not because they were told to, because they felt it. After the assembly, reporters swarmed, microphones extended, questions flew. "Naomi, how does it feel to be recognized by NASA? Did you ever imagine this would happen? Are you going to be a scientist now?" Naomi answered each question calmly, graciously, but her eyes searched the crowd. For her mom, she found her. At the back of the gym, behind the last row of folding chairs. Tears in her eyes. A smile across her face. And for the first time since this all began, Naomi smiled too. In the weeks that followed, her story went viral. She was featured on morning shows, invited to a youth science summit. An HBCU in Atlanta offered her a full ride, if she wanted it someday. A grant funded $5,000 to build more of her purifiers for low-income neighborhoods. But none of that was her favorite part. Her favorite part was walking past Mr. Hughes's classroom and seeing a poster that read, "Science doesn't care where you're from. Neither should we." Naomi Johnson, and back in Brownsville. Her kitchen table still had scorch marks from the soldering iron. Her little cousin still played with her old algae jars like they were lava lamps. But everything was different, because the next time Naomi walked into school, kids didn't move away from her. They moved toward her, to ask questions, to learn, to listen. Not because she was the girl from NASA, but because she reminded them that being underestimated isn't the end, it's the beginning. 1 month later, Naomi sat at her desk, soldering a new panel for version 2.0 of the purifier. She hummed under her breath. Her hoodie sleeves were rolled up, hands steady, focused. Her mom walked in holding a letter. "Another one?" Naomi asked. Her mom nodded. "From the Netherlands this time. A professor wants to test your system in rural villages." Naomi blinked. She looked at her project, then back at the letter, then smiled and whispered, "Not bad for trash."